you're done throwing the garbage.
To me, if that's what you're so worried about, that's what you're wasting everybody's time on.
Yeah. Just worried.
Well, it's good for you to keep that.
To him, it was, yeah, it's a big deal. He was-
Yeah, I
my
think
set
there's,
together.
and I
look
think
at, or
from
you give
the
him his
rural
and then
side
send
too,
it back to-
I don't consider
Gives you a rundown of
special areas as a municipality, but
rundown of the
generally it's the urbans that you think of.
procedures.
but
Yeah.
Again, you're almost stealing a little bit of their thunder by
Yeah.
saying we're, and I think because there's been talk about amalgamation between AUMA or Alberta Municipality and RMA, and RMA has been opposed to it. I think they see this as, oh, they're subliminally
Yeah.
setting the
They go to 3
stage
hours in
so
the morning,
we can
whatever,
amalgamate under
Yeah.
Alberta
No, it's good, actually.
municipalities. So yeah, no, there's some, all I said was they didn't ask me.
Yeah, yeah.
I had no input on it. They didn't ask me.
So you would have said no?
Well, it doesn't fall off your tongue.
No, anyway,
Alberta
it's just-
municipalities is
Duh.
Yeah.
Like it needs something else.
Yeah,
Alberta urban municipalities.
but that's what it was, but
Yeah.
But
there's no acronym that works. And it's such a long handle that it
Yeah.
just doesn't flow nice, so.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, you all ready?
I don't know. I'm running around the shop like a chicken with my head chopped off. Lots of broke down day before yesterday, so we got inundated with about 250 parcels. And so we're just kind of getting that caught up, and then,
feels like Christmas?
yeah, and we're off to Grey Cup tonight, so,
Oh, wow.
yeah, well, we're fly out at, I think it's 4:30 tomorrow morning, so I said to Justin, I said, do we want to go in tonight, or do we want to leave at midnight? And he said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, if it was me, I would leave tonight. I
Yeah.
said, get down and make sure we're there.
Absolutely.
You never know what the
I
weather's
said,
gonna
because
be
you don't know
like.
what the weather's gonna be. And he said, well, it's supposed to be nice. I said, I'm not arguing that. We're gonna go tonight. Just Justin and I. +5 though for December 12th Grey Cup in
Yeah.
Hamilton.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, +15 on Saturday, 80% chance of rain.
Oh, wow.
So
When you come
I
back.
was looking at the weather last weekend and it was very blustery and ugly and I'm thinking, oh, it's only gonna get worse.
+4, they dropped it a bit.
So, no, it'll
Just
be.
even outside here, it's
Somebody else
warming up by the
can
minute.
handle
You can
What's
feel
that?
it.
Yeah, another bunch
I've
of
got
them,
guys,
those, right?
engineers
I
that
can't
are around,
remember
so
the
I have
hell
the generator
Which one it was?
and industrial heater. and still let
Geez,
people
now I
out.
can remember.
Nice.
It's still warmer outside. than
Somebody
it
said,
is
no, there's-
inside.
Yeah,
I thought
but
maybe
it's
they were
nicer
more you.
today,
Yeah.
yesterday.
You know, it's just us two,
Yeah,
so.
crazy.
Guess we should get a call to order, anybody?
You got it,
Is
Mr.
that- I
Mayor.
got- Okay, right, yeah, we'll call it to order at, what time is it again? Because I know that.
104.
103.
Well, yeah.
Perfect. Sorry about running a little bit late, folks. It's just, yeah. Recommendation that the agenda for December 8th council meeting be adopted as presented. Councilor Campion, all in favor? Carried.
Can you see Ange?
I can see Ange just fine.
Okay,
Where are you at today, girl? I can't hear her, so that's okay.
you will be able to hear, you should be able to.
No, she was talking and nothing was happening, so
Oh,
I can see lips moving, I couldn't hear it. So
I turned her down, maybe I turned her down too far.
okay.
try again, Ange.
I'm here.
Does it work?
There
Alright,
we go.
There we go.
perfect. Okay,
Okay, Mr. Mayor, present this document. It's very similar to what was given to you council last meeting. Just want to run through it with you quickly, and then I'll turn the floor over and we can move forward from there. So we did put a recommended motion in, the recommended motions in, if that's something that council wishes to move forward with, but we won't worry about the motion right off the hop. So on page 2 of the document that I sent you, the operating budget, those are all.
It's slowing up now.
Can you hear them, sir? No?
As he was on the condenser. So that's good.
Yeah,
I just wanted to point that out to you. On the next page, page 3, I want to have a little discussion about Fox Lake Park Helmer Dam, just so we're clear. So what is in the budget right now? The capital project for the aeration is in the budget at $240,000. It is funded by a contribution from Henry Kruger at 120, and the town using the transfer from reserves of 30 and the transfer to reserves in 22 to put in 60. If we proposed to move that project to 2023, a couple of things are positive there. It could allow for a club like the Rod and Gun Club to apply for some funding and possibly get funding, a grant funding towards it, which would reduce the contribution required from both the town of Hanna and Henry Kruger. And secondly, I had a long conversation this morning with Garth Carl, and Garth would recommend, as well as I do, that we push it off to 2023. Garth's concern right now is he's not sure where the water levels are going to be in the spring. He said we were down significantly as a result of no runoff, evaporation, and if there's no runoff into the water and we don't get any rain next year, the levels are just going to drop. And he said he felt the aeration's it's not the right time for that. We did have a longer talk about what the long-term solution could be or would be. And we both agreed that probably the best long-term solution would be to get some river water in there. So he said they have the ability in the winter time to transfer, well, not in the summer, they don't have the ability in the summer because they have to transfer so much water just to treat their supply here. But in the winter, the demand is lower. They could move water. They could move river water out into Helmer. Right now, to bring it up to full level would probably be a minimum of 200 acre feet, which they charge $600 an acre foot. So it's $120,000. So he said he thinks that's probably the first option to nail down, and the first priority to nail down is a source of water. So if we were able to get that built up, then on an annual basis, and if an annual basis council and the commission wanted to commit to filling it, whether we needed to fill it every winter with either 25 acre feet or 50 acre feet, depending on what evaporation we had and stuff like that, then we could have a better quality of water in there moving forward. And then he said aeration is a tool that you could do on top of that would improve the quality better. So what he and I talked about and what I would recommend to council is that we allocate that project, move that project, still call it aeration for now to 2023. Would save us some money in this year's budget, about $60,000. And council can either allocate that to reserve or spend it how they would wish to. I would recommend we allocate it either into that reserve to build that reserve up. And that's what I said to Garth, if it gives us a little more time on our hand to build up some dollars so that when we are able to move forward with a significant project there, we've got the money, we're ready to go.
yeah,
So-
that would, I think that's the best option is to start putting it away so we're not taking a massive hit all at once
And Garth has to balance, like Garth said, they have a certain allotment from the Red Deer River that they can draw. And he said typically they're at about 65% of what their allotment is. So he said there is room to draw additional from the Red Deer River. So he said that's not necessarily an issue. He just said in the summer, they're too busy and the pipes are pressurized enough. But he said over the winter, a person could start diverting water into Helmer over the winter and, build that up. And he thought he could put in 200 acre feet over the winter. And I did say to him, my expectation would be when he says the $120,000 to fill it, that would be something we would cost share with the commission as well.
Now, that 120,000, is that including power and?
That includes everything they need to get it there. They have a flat fee of $600 per acre
Yeah,
foot.
no, I just wanted to make sure there was no,
No, there's no additional, that was my understanding from Garth, that there would be no additional. It's currently $600 an acre foot to transfer that water.
is that going to cause any issues on Helmer Dam for snowmobilers? Hey,
It'll block it off.
I don't know that, Mr. Mayor, but it's something we would have to double check that if the thickness if they've got flowing water coming in there, then, and if it is, we would block it off and say, water project in play, thin ice, and keep people off that way.
Because I mean, ultimately, we're gonna probably, and I forgive me for not understanding, we're gonna raise the level significantly, so. I mean, the ice would never really have a chance to set per se.
Possibly, I'm not sure where it comes in, Mr. Mayor, if it comes in
Maybe below the pump.
fairly lower and the water would freeze on top and it would filter underneath, but anybody will say, stay off water that's got movement or stay off ice that's got movement underneath it.
Yeah.
So I think that probably would be something we would have to do, Mr. Mayor. I'm not 100% sure, but I think probably we would have to if we were moving water in there in the wintertime. So
Wouldn't we need to leave that $60,000 on the books for just the water for 2022?
certainly what I will,
So are we getting water level up in 2022, then proceed with aeration in 2023?
yeah, depending on how we want to cost it and when we want to cost it, Councillor Olson, if we're able to start the project, say, November of 2022 and start flowing the water, and whether the commission would want payment in 2022 or when we're done in 23, but I would recommend though that the 60 that we would save this year by not moving forward on it, that we allocate that to that project so it's there and ready to be used. And then if Garth says to us and we nail it down and Garth says to us, okay, this is the plan, let's start putting water in November of 22, and he wants to bill us for a share in 22, we've got the money sitting there.
So it's out of the question to start that earlier, like in the fall?
I don't think, well, I'm not sure at what
It depends on the
time.
water situation. but-
Yeah, I'm not sure, Councillor Olson, what time he will feel comfortable. Certainly it's after the demand has reduced, and I think the demand probably would reduce. Depends on how long people are gonna irrigate their gardens and their lawns and stuff like that. So he might be able to start it in October. We didn't get into specific details, but October, November of 22, I think he could start putting water there. He was hesitant to say we could do it right now because he hasn't planned on that.
Yeah.
So he would have to plan on drawing that extra water into their raw water reserve, so then that they could transfer it out.
My only thought is there's been a lot of planning and a lot of talking and study. It'd be nice to
Yeah,
move forward.
To
with
do-
getting
Get
started, yeah.
the water in there.
and Garth said to me, in hindsight, probably over these last number of years, we should have bit the bullet and should have been doing this. If we would have done this over the last 5 years, it wouldn't be a
As big a
hit.
hit.
But he did say, depending on the summer,
Yeah.
how much you might have to top it up every year with river water, but it would be a good quality water. And then at the end of the day, Garth and the commission have a much better product to make water from if they need to make water from as a secondary source. So that's kind of what Garth and I chatted about this morning, and I would recommend that we would move that into 23, and the $60,000 that we will save this year, that we roll that into reserves so it's able to be used for whatever project.
So it's not $120,000 hit the next year. It's.
Yeah,
I was just wondering, there isn't a lot of, I guess the pipes are down deep enough that having that activity or extra activity of moving the water even in the off season doesn't put a lot of extra strain on like if we're in a cold snap and that's when I guess Garth would know.
yeah, Garth didn't indicate to me that that would be an issue. He did indicate that they don't have the capacity to do it during the summer. They don't want to put the pressure on their raw water line. But over the winter with our demand down, it was something he felt was very doable.
Yeah,
So,
I know, I was just concerned about cold
No.
snap.
Moving water don't freeze, you know.
yeah,
But the pipes, if they're not, as
yeah, but
the
yeah,
older pipes as well.
you run the risk that you could have a break, just like we run the risk that you could have a break on our lines too. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
go
when
ahead.
the water comes in at it would be backflow from what they used to draw the water from Elmer region. They would
Yeah.
just backflow it. So it comes in right below the pump house out there is where it comes in.
Okay.
So what I'm wondering here, like, could we write a letter then to the Rod and Gun Club and get them a heads up so they can get a plan for this thing?
Yeah,
I
no,
I
yeah.
belong to the Rod and
Okay.
Gun Club
Yeah.
too, so
I just
I
think
think
that might
that'd
be an
advantage
opportunity.
if we can.
Yeah, it might be an opportunity to get some outside dollars towards this project.
Okay, so the 60,000 you're putting in the reserves, that's gonna go toward the aeration project, is it
Well,
not?
maybe we should change the
Like, where's-
terminology from aeration to Helmer Dam Water
Restoration
Quality or
program,
Helmer
or-
Dam Water Restoration Program.
Because the aeration cost on it was 240 grand.
Yeah,
Was the estimate they
Yeah.
got, and so the 60, if you're putting it in and you're gonna use it for pumping the water, you still haven't got the money there for the aeration
No, but
project.
I
if we
think-
do it.
talking with Garth, aeration would be plan B. Would be, he says it's a tool, but having a source of water and a good source of water is your number one tool. He said,
Yes.
well, if you can get that and we can get that in place, and if we want to improve the quality of the water after, if we need to, then you could aerate. He said, aeration on the existing water that's there is probably not going to be it will help, but it probably will not be as beneficial as having fresh Red Deer River water.
Well, that was the purpose behind doing the aeration, was to assist Henry Kruger if they didn't need to use it as storm water.
Yeah.
That was the plan.
The
behind it.
existing water that's in place. Not new water.
He meant, yeah, like talking river water or whatever, if you got it, even if you had runoff water and build it. If it happened to fill, then you could do the aeration project and get it in there and it would clean that, you know. All it is snow water, so.
Well, it's
Maybe
not,
some
but it's not, and that's the report that we had is the runoff water carries so many nutrients with it because it's coming, it is eventually, it started as snow, but it travels and so if you can, like Gar said, if you can get Red Deer River water in there, you're gonna be so much farther ahead than runoff or even a transfer of the water from Fox Lake in there.
Yeah,
Because it's similar water.
agriculture products that will come with that drainage as
Yeah.
well into it.
So I just wanted to touch base. We would recommend that. And if council wanted to move forward with that, we would recommend that. The other thing that's not mentioned in here, but I think was an idea that we would move forward with. Councillor Campion mentioned at the last meeting, we had proposed dropping the regional waste fee from $44 a billing period to 42. Councillor Campion had suggested it's already at 44, leave it at 44. And so what we would bring forward would be, I think we would generate about an extra $16,000 above what the commission would charge us. So we would take that 16 and transfer it into a regional waste reserve. And we can use it either if the rates go up, if we want to draw from it to keep them
Maintain.
consistent, or if something happened. So that is something I think we would want to move forward with as well. And it also provides a little bit of flexibility at this point in time because we don't have the requisition from the commission. So if it did go up, then, you know, that money wouldn't go into reserves, but it would fill that gap if the requisition does go higher than what the 2021
Well, it's
requisition
gonna
was.
be what he said it was, 300.
So I think that's the
334,
other
I
thing
think,
that
wasn't
I didn't get written down in here, but I would recommend that we move forward with is leaving the regional waste fee at $44 per billing period. The only other thing, Mr. Mayor, is we would, you know, I didn't go through all of the recommendations that I put forward last time, but if council, I guess this is the time where I would ask council if out of the recommendations that were put forward last meeting in terms of reallocating dollars, if anybody has any concerns or issues with those recommendations, and if so, which ones? And I think we move forward from there, Mr. Mayor.
Just look at my notes quickly here, sorry.
Okay.
No, yeah, good. Those that's, like I said, it was kind of ironic almost that the scribbles and notes that I'd made before and then what you brought forward was within, you know, $100,000 of what I kind of perceived, so.
And even with the transfer to reserves for the Helmer Dam project, we're still gonna be left, we still are left with right now as we sit here with I gotta find the right page. I think it's a $38,000 surplus to the budget. I'm not recommending to council that we spend that 38,000 just because you have that 38,000. If there's something that council believes needs to be changed or is missed, you know, that gives us a little bit of room in discussions today. If there's not, and we still have a surplus at the end of the day, my recommendation would be to transfer that into contingency. And then it's there when we go to set the tax rate in May and we have to make any changes, we've got a little bit of wiggle room there if some surprise comes up between now and the first part of May. So I don't know if we want to go around the table, Mr. Mayor, and if there's any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, but it's your ball game
Take
now.
a quick, Councilor Warwick, anything?
I'm good right now. Yeah. Can you hear me? I don't have any questions. What's been put before us, the proposals and the outline, to me, aligns with our previous conversation at our last meeting, so I'm good with it.
Councilor Kroll,
Yeah, I'm good.
Councilor Murphy,
I'm good too, thank you.
Councilor Campion.
On that, so I just want an explanation. And on that training thing, no, I can't find it.
Are you
On
talking
that training allowance thing,
for council?
yeah,
It's not in here, Mr. Mayor, so I just want to be clear. It is, if we want to move forward, there would need to be a motion to make those amendments to the technology allowance and to the training costs. And if we do that, that takes us down. That was the 38,000 I was referring to. We're at 56 right now. If we implemented those two, it would take us down to 38. Did you have a question? No, specifically about it?
Yes, like this
So-
technology, which one are you talking here? Like here, if we go to the 800 a year, I don't mind that. But the 2,000 per year training opportunities that your own discretion, what is this? What does this entail? Because you got horse registration, travel accommodation per diem. Is this the convention or are
No,
these special courses?
these are in addition. The regular,
So Munis would fall under this.
pardon me?
Munis?
Yeah,
Munis
in a
would fall
normal,
under
in a
this.
normal year, it would fall under that, but because this year you won't have a Munis 101 the rest of your term.
No,
But-
you won't.
But what this budget reflects is there's money in the budget for travel, for AUMA, travel for any meetings that, any committees you may be on. And if they have anything where you need travel or per diems to go to them. The $2,000 in addition is for the discretion of council. So Councillor Murphy, I'll use her as an example, whether it's an elected officials course, she says, I'd really like to take the elected officials finance course. And it's gonna be $300 to register and it's in Edmonton, so there's gonna be some accommodations, travel, stuff. She has the prerogative within that to say, yes, that's where I wanna spend
To a
my
maximum of
$2,000, to a
$2,000.
maximum of 2,000. If a
So-
counselor chooses not to, that money will remain and not unspent. But it's up to council to, we'll only do that. If they want to do a training above and beyond that, that would be on their dime at their cost. But the 2,000, I just want to be clear, the $2,000 would, in my mind, I interpreted it that it would be the registration cost for the course. It would be any travel subsistence costs associated, if there was any, and any per diems.
So this 2,000, say, she goes to Edmonton to the course, it costs her 1,000.
Yeah.
Does that mean she's only got 1,000 left for her per
Yes.
diem for her meetings?
No,
That
not
she
for, not
attends?
for her meetings,
None for
for any
meetings, okay.
special training courses that she wished to go to.
Yeah, that's where I was getting confused. I thought you were including that too, and I thought, like, I don't think I could even get up to the 2,000, but
No, the cost for you to attend the Red Deer River Mugs is in a separate,
yeah, well, that's the only one that you guys have to pay for, but
Yeah.
there's some that are on PEP and things like that.
yeah, and there's, again, separate
don't-
from this 2,000.
Yeah, okay, as long as it's not in, I thought if it's included in this, somebody might get shortchanged here, so. You know,
Good question.
you know,
It's me.
okay,
Yeah,
Let's say somebody, like one of us counselors, want to take a course. Should that be presented to the rest of the council so that if somebody else wanted to follow through with that course, that they could do it?
I don't know, Councilor Crowell, who would have to. That's why we're trying to make it flexible.
It's a flexible spending account is what it is.
Yeah.
So if you want to take a course and Fred, if Council Scroll, if you wanted to say, hey, Danny, do you want to come with me to this? That's fine, but you're not expected to.
If you saw something or found something that you thought was a good course and you wanted to bring it to your fellow council members' attention, you could let them
Yeah.
know. But as
It's
the
not
mayor said,
expected.
it's a flexible spending account for you. We don't have to approve, no one has to approve that you're going to this course. We trust that it's going to be something that will benefit you as an individual, benefit you as a counselor, the training. That it's not flexible enough that you're gonna, go to Hawaii for 2 weeks on a vacation, like.
you mean we can't all go to Glen Abbey? That's a course for a week, yeah, golfing.
I don't think you could do that for
Drinking
2,000.
beer.
So it does leave the flexibility in counselors' hands and to take what they think would best work for them.
The thing I
I
was
wouldn't be
asking
using
was, like, as a new counselor, I don't know what's out there. I don't have a clue.
There's,
You
well,
know,
there's
I
7
know
courses
more.
offered through, sorry, I'm gonna,
Elected officials
Yeah.
education program.
Yeah.
There is those, but you might, and as you, even in your personal day-to-day, even in, as you are a counselor, you probably get more offers to you on courses, whether it's through just get on an email list of consulting firms that are doing courses, legal, Brownlee Fry does courses, different lawyers do courses. You probably get on their mailing list and they'll be sending you something saying, we're doing a course on this day in Edmonton, click here to register. If you look at that and go, oh, that looks really interesting, I think that would help me. Then you work within your budget
$2,000.
and you move forward with that. So, but there'll be more opportunities. The only formal ones that I'm aware of are the elected official education program ones. But there are a lot more out there, and probably as you get on more mailing lists and people scroll our website and get your contacts, you probably get access to more opportunities. So
Athabasca University has a course that,
that's,
Athabasca University has courses, and Doug Griffiths has
Yeah.
instructed some of them I've attended.
He's so nice.
and even another one, and then it just, even Augustana in Camrose does a number of courses and workshops as
Sorry,
well.
that's the one I was thinking
So-
of, Augustana.
So that, you probably will get on a mailing list there and you'll see stuff. So it leaves it up to you as you want to move forward. It also provides counselors with the opportunity, if you don't spend it, you don't spend it. It's safe, so.
Okay, Kim is, so we're gonna get an $800 check, right?
If council approves
If
the
we approve
technology
this, yeah.
allowance, yeah.
And then how is that paid? Is that paid as an expense?
Same as we've
Or-
always, same ways we've always paid. It would be,
So
it's
it's
not
paid
on
as
your
an-
payroll,
It's not paid as a payroll?
no.
Because you remember, before the election and that I brought it up that we usually, did the wage increases for the councils from the going out council, and you said it was to be left till budget time,
What we've
because
done
we've
with,
never looked at the,
no,
at
what,
the, the yearly rate.
you mean in terms of the per diems or in terms of your honorarium?
Your honorarium, like for your yearly wage.
So this is your opportunity. If you wanted to look at that, what we've done in the past is we've tied them to any adjustments to staff. So if staff was given a 1% COLA, the honorarium for mayor and council would be increased by 1%. 2 years ago, I think council of the day said, we're gonna freeze our rate, and it's been frozen. The budget as it sits today leaves your honorarium at the same as it was, as you know it coming forward. If council wishes to increase their honorarium, we have a 1% COLA for staff, yet council has to approve that budget. If council did that and council wanted to, raise their honorariums by 1%, that is certainly an option as well. That's up to you guys to make that decision.
Well, I think it's only fair that it is done that way.
What I would prefer, instead of us basically giving ourselves a raise, there needs to be a third party, whether it's now or whether we say at the end of 4 years, what's left over from, the travel and that extra $2,000 a year, put that towards a third party review. And if they agree significantly underpaid, significantly overpaid, and just compare, or just simply look at all the other councilors, all the other municipalities, and we're in the middle. I mean, there's lots
Yeah.
that pay more, lots that pay less. But that'd be my recommendation. I would prefer if it was a third party thing, but again, that costs money too.
I would
But
think-
every council up to the state, Councillor Wilson has done the same thing. You're giving raises to the staff and everything, you're giving increases to administration and everything, and when it comes down to it, the only way you're gonna get a raise is give it to yourself. You're the one making the decision, and I don't think we're overpaid, like,
No,
Any
I'll agree
means.
there.
you know,
No, but
So-
you're not here for the money either. and if you
No,
are,
but-
then you shouldn't
Yeah.
be.
but by the
That's
same
something
token,
we
you're
I don't-
you're putting in a lot of hours for what you're getting paid for.
That's what you put your
That's what
name
you
on the
sign
list for.
But yeah, so right now, as the budget sits, council honorariums are the same as they were in 2021. If council wishes to adjust them, they can. If they wish to hold the line and have someone do a review, we can look at that and bring that in mid-year or end of term or whenever. Like, I don't know if you want to wait 4 years, Counselor Olson. But I know if you do it within your 4-year term, no matter what the committee says or the consultant brings forward a third-party review, you're giving yourself that increase. So
I know that we had, well, before the income tax came.
Yeah.
We were not charging income tax. And then we were asked if we wanted to be paid the
More.
reduced rate or more to cover the income tax. And we chose to take it after tax. And so that that's what we were getting paid. So,
yeah,
but I believe not everybody gets the same level, do they? It all depends on which boards they sit on.
yeah. I'm not talking about your external boards or payments you receive from external boards, because we do not control that or have anything to do
No,
with
no,
that.
and that's not what I'm talking, but as far as each individual counselor, I did see a list that it showed what levels everybody was at. And there were some that were higher and some that were lower.
Well, there is in the financial statement. In the financial statement, always any dollars a council member receives for honorarium, per diems, those types of things is identified in the financial statement. So and again, some counselors will be seen as having received higher remuneration, and that's partly because some will charge for their per diems. We have some counselors in the past who didn't charge any per diems. But that was their choice. And so some will, if you look at the financial statement, you'll see that varying degrees of,
But all
Payments.
counselors start at the same base.
they get the
number.
same base honorarium, yes.
But
If they have several
What Brad-
meetings within a board, a lot more meetings, then they would be getting more. If that board is paying the.
I'll use an example. Well, again, I don't know outside boards, but an example here that I'll use is PEP. So PEP has, if our representatives travel to Medicine Hat to a PEP meeting, they get their honorarium. We pay their honorarium. But if the Acadia Foundation, whatever they do, whatever Palliser does. So some of the people who are on the PEP committees, who are on the Red Deer River Mugs group, where we're paying an honorarium to, they'll have higher payments, and we also accommodate any travel costs as well as built into that amount that you'll see a counselor get. So depending on the committee, it does change. Some people will be on committees where they don't get any honorariums from the town. They get their honorariums from the boards.
And for example, the Marigold, no honorarium at all. So I didn't get one from here or the board, but they pay my mileage, that's it.
That's the same with Community Futures Meridian. Is that plus if you go to one of their conferences or
Yeah.
their training, then they cover that as well. So there's, depending on which board you're on,
Yeah.
there's pros and cons, but it
Different
varies,
levels, yeah. And we have had some counselors who could have charged an honorarium, but chose not to.
But what I wanted to, by bringing this wage thing up for the newer counselors who didn't know, and you as well, Dan, until I believe 2 years ago, Kim, when they took our income tax deduction thing away from us, And what it was you were allowed so many dollars to earn
One
before
third.
they took it away.
One,
And
they basically
it
took,
cost us about $12.50, wasn't it, a piece?
I can't remember
I think
what it
it's-
was, but council of the day, as Councillor Bowden said, we went to counselor and say for round numbers, if a counselor was making $10,000 in an honorarium and a third of that was not tax deductible, then you get rid of that tax deduction. We had to pay you another $1,200 or whatever
Offset
to give you the same take-home pay at the end of the day. Council of the day, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I can't remember, was, said, no, just leave the honorarium the same and we'll take the hit
We'll take less.
of that
So-
tax.
So it didn't change the cost
So-
to the town. It was-
That's the reason I'm bringing up the honorarium. It's because, we've never had a chance to get that covered. I mean, it's the way it was when we started.
And it is, I will say, and though that every year when we are doing this discussion, there is an opportunity for council to say, we need to increase that, we're not getting enough. And I know 2 years ago, council of the day said, no, we're good where we're at, we're gonna freeze it, and we've left it there. If there's a desire amongst council to increase that, that is up to you guys to say you A, want it increased, and B, what type of percent increase. And we're talking same COLA as a 1%, to the budget, it's gonna mean $800,
I was
$900.
gonna say,
Like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna,
Drop
you're not
in the
gonna
bucket.
notice a small amount like that, because you'll be at, $800. So it's not gonna affect our budget crazily. But if you guys want to do that, certainly we can move that forward.
You do have to mention, Mr. Neal, that during my last meeting at Acadia Foundation, that several of the people around the table brought up cost of living increases. And I was quite surprised that every one of them, without hesitation, has already agreed to 4%. I thought, that seems a little high, but
Well, you have to be careful, and I can't speak to what other communities are
No.
doing. Cost of living because of inflation, if you use that COLA number, it's probably 4 or
And a lot of
5%.
municipalities use that to save the discussion.
And
They
that's
do that automatically.
no discussion. That's right, that they went based on the cost of living, based on the increase in inflation right now, and that's what it's at. So,
And we haven't in this budget, as I said, last year council made a decision to freeze the grid, so there was no COLA. There was grid steps, but there was no COLA. We've put in 1%. If others are getting 4, they're getting 4. Again, from our side, it's a little bit difficult coming forward too, because we don't want to pit ourselves against council, and we're asking for a whole bunch of money. I think for anybody here, the 1% is more of it may not meet true COLA terms, but it's more of an appreciation. Thank you for the work. It's more of an appreciation amount than it is to meet the true COLA. But as Councilor Olson said, some people will, especially if they're unionized or more formal, they'll have agreements that will say that their grid is going to be adjusted by the cost of living allowance determined as of this date annually. But this is an anomaly in terms of COLA. It's been pretty flat, maybe a 1%, 2%. It's been pretty flat over the last number of years. Now, all of a sudden, cost of commodities and cost of everything is going up. So COLA's, when people are using that 4%, it's a big hit. So, yeah.
you're not suggesting a 10% increase, are you?
No.
I'm just, because you mentioned $1,250 and you're about 11
Well,
out.
that's about what it costs us.
No,
by not
I'm
being
aware of
able-
that. That's why I'm asking.
By not being able to write off the percentage that they got on it, so
Yeah.
it was quite a hit. And a lot of the municipalities, like, I believe Stettler, I just forget what they did, but they made it up to their councillors, and it didn't cost them a cent, we've never done that, so,
Is
I
that
just see it was something that I thought we should face some, look at sometime and.
So Council
know.
Campion, do you have something to throw on the table as
That's what
as a
I'm asking.
number or a percentage, or do you want to just leave it for future discussion down the road?
Well, I don't know, if I was to throw it on, it would be a minimum of 5%. Is what I would suggest, look at that, and what would it cost us? The 5%,
Ballpark number, 5% is
well, we
probably,
make 9,000.
it's probably gonna cost the town
$4,000.
4 or 5 grand.
It's minimal, it's for 7
Not
people.
5%, what's you gonna gain? You're gonna pay more tax,
Well, yeah, the more you make, the more tax you pay, yes, yeah.
so you're not gaining nothing.
But that's, yeah, I guess Council Campion, where I'm at in that, if you thought 5% was the number and you felt that it should be, I would ask you to put a motion on the floor that council honorarium be increased by that amount, and then council can make that decision and we can have that direction as to whether they agree with you or not. That's the only way we can move this forward
Yeah.
is.
We can discuss it till we're blue in the face, but we need to go somewhere.
And I'm not saying this, I guess I'm saying this is, you have to be careful, Council Campion, and I know there's some apples to apples aren't always apples to apples, but I know there would be some concern among staff if council gave themselves a 5% increase and they gave staff a 0 or a 1.
Yeah, that's not even.
No,
comparing apples to
No, I know,
apples.
that's what I
Yeah.
said. I said it's
But
not
as far
apples
as
to apples,
You gotta
but
consider their level to start with.
That's right.
Their fee.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, I think it should be either one or the other, not both. Either an increase, their automatic step increase, but when we're looking at taking this money from people that are losing their jobs and, lost their businesses and all this others, I think regardless of how much it costs, I think the optics are very damaging in the eyes of the residents, in my opinion. And as far as I'm concerned, I didn't sign on for this to make a lot of money. And I know it costs stuff. I guess that is part of our running for council, but people can do what they want. I just find the way it is. And I think it's either a pay increase for the staff or a cost of living allowance, not both. Except for those that are on a fixed income or a fixed contract or whatever that do not have the increase, then I would see a 1% as being acceptable.
so just to Mayor.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to get my head around this,
So
so,
Councillor Bowden, when she refers to an increase, she refers to a grid step.
yeah, grid step,
That group step,
Yeah.
which is 3%.
The grid step is their right. You can't even, no disrespect whatsoever, just to me,
No,
you do not play with someone's grid steps. That's your right. It's very important also as a member of the public service, we are providing service to the public. If we're not even at minimum wage at some level, then we won't be able to provide the quality of service that our town residents are expecting of us. So I understand where Councillor Campion is coming from, in that it's important that we actually reflect a professionalism. However, it should match the staff. So if the staff is 1%, we shouldn't ask for more than 1%. But the fact that someone's on a grid step, they still get 1%. Everybody it's cost of living has nothing to do with your grid.
I think what Councillor Campion is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you took approximately a 12% hit the number a couple of years ago, is that correct?
Yeah.
And
It did not turn out to be that significant.
And I don't know what it
It
was.
was-
I don't know the number.
No, if I recall, that's why we deemed it not a big deal, because it was grand scheme of things, difference of $400 to $500 in a year.
I honestly
not
don't remember
significant.
that, what it was.
Well, you were
I
allowed,
mean, it wasn't nothing, but it wasn't.
we were
Something
allowed,
like from
I
800
forget
to
what
like
percent, what, do you remember the
600
percentage, Kim?
some,
Or-
so-
No, it was one,
The third?
they used to take a third as tax-free.
Yeah.
They
so
didn't, you
third
didn't
was
have to report
tax-free.
that third as income.
And then Trudeau took the rest with that, well,
Well, but that's besides the point,
yeah,
what he takes, so. I don't know, I don't recall, Councilor
Yeah, I don't
Olson,
remember exactly.
what the effect was to you, but there was an effect. Whether it was $500, whether it was $1,200, I don't know.
Okay, so do we need a motion now, Kim, or this is all part and parcel?
Well, I
Finish
guess.
a roundtable.
I
Yeah,
think we
that's where I was
finished-
gonna go next, was I just kind of went
Okay,
going.
yeah,
Okay, so Counselor Olson,
Well, a few things that maybe off the beaten path. I kind of noticed through COVID, small town, rural, everything reliving, it's the outdoor activities is what people noticed for Hanna, what brought them back on weekends, even if they were visiting, what people talked about here. So the couple changes I'd like to see, add the $15,000 back to the Fox Lake electrical upgrade. I would like to see the $35,000 for the skate park resurfacing.
25.
25, all right, put that back on. The other less popular thing, I'd like to see an additional 1% COLA. My thoughts behind that, when we sat through AUMA, they explained some municipalities prided themselves on, we want the best talent, we will pay the most.
Yeah.
I believe Red Deer County was one. I don't want to be there, we're not there. But there was also the other side of things was spend nothing, do nothing. They don't have a choice. They're going to work here because, they have to like the town. They can't move somewhere else. We're also not there, nor do I want to be there. So that additional 1% for what everybody's gone through, I think is fair. It's an $11,000 hit to the budget. And I built a chart. I love spreadsheets. So I did a
yeah,
chart
you did.
of municipalities similar size. Their
Spreadsheets,
unrestricted
always send me your
surplus, their
spreadsheets.
restricted surplus, salaries, total debt, as well as their kilometers from a major center. Because that seemed to be a unique thing. If they're a small town, 10 kilometers from Lethbridge, like Colehurst, they provide different services. They have different staff. So we are on the bottom 40% of those ones in similar,
But
things
two of
from being
those
far
are
away.
way up north,
yeah.
and those
Yeah.
are the two higher ones that skew the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So to try to be where we're at that 1%, I'd like to see that. So the numbers, $15,000 for the electrical upgrade at Fox Lake, so 25
Yeah.
for the resurfacing. All right, so I'm off. 11 for an additional 1% COLA for 2%. Makes it 51,000 additional expense. So that's close to the surplus. I would like to pull the difference from unrestricted surplus. My thoughts behind that, even though all the balanced budgets we've done over the years, at the end of the year, we've increased unrestricted surplus by, last year, in 2020, was still $170,000 increase in unrestricted surplus, while still responsibly putting money in sewer repair reserve and all those things. So I'm not concerned to pull $5,000 or $10,000 from that unrestricted surplus due to administration having good budgeting so that we are comfortable and we have money for those repairs when we need it. So really, those are the three items, and then a bunch of rambling to justify it, but the Fox Lake upgrade, skate park resurfacing, and 1% COLA to make it a 2%. And I would support tying council to that COLA like it was for years.
Counselor Medina?
I could go with the 1% quota increase. I like your suggestions. I agree too that put money into the Fox Lake. And I'd also like to see some sort of extra promotion in our rural, our sports assets and that sort of thing, to be able to market it outside of our area. To be able to generate more revenue for bringing more people to our area for tournaments and things of that nature, especially in off seasons, the arena, if it can be utilized some other way in the off season when it's sitting there empty, to be able to bring extra generate extra revenue for the assets that we do have. I really think that they're under promoted and that we have a lot of opportunity to do that. I think that's all. Otherwise, yeah, no, I like everything else.
A comment for that, if I may, Mr. Mayor. I wonder if that could be a form of a grant to Hanna Minor Hockey to pay somebody to put in that effort. Volunteers are so few and far between, especially that's going to be quite a time commitment. I don't know what a number would be if
Well, I
Yeah.
think, I guess I was looking at maybe if there was any funding available through the hub that maybe Martin Nicola is looking at through Heritage Harvest Sky, as far as getting some extra funding out that way.
On the note of a grant to minor hockey, I think a suggestion could be made that we share the profit from said versus a grant, give them some incentive to go and do things. And we take a portion, but they also reap the benefits of it instead of just giving them a lump sum number. So if you generate another $10,000 worth of revenue for the arena, we can give you 20% or 25% of that, or whatever the number may be. I think instead of just giving them a lump sum, I think there needs to be some incentives tied to it, would be my recommendation if we were looking at something like that.
Could that work for the ball clubs? too?
Yeah.
To give them some incentive to draw tournaments.
It's, no, and I'm saying for any
Yeah.
facilities in town, I mean, if the, the minor ball, if you bring in 2 more ball tournaments into our area,
Yeah.
that and could generate us another 10,000, well, it would be $2,000 worth of revenue from the ball diamonds, we'll give you 10% of that or 25% of that or whatever. A dollar that we don't have now is a dollar that we will never have.
Yeah.
So I mean, if it's a dollar, it's a dollar, right? I mean,
So just for council's information too. So right now, we do provide a grant to
minor hockey.
to any organization who's hosting a provincial caliber or provincial level tournament. So for example, Hanna Minor Hockey has applied to host the Tier 3 under 18s the end of March. If they're successful in that, we basically provide them with $1,000 in kind. So if their ice bills $2,000 or whatever for the tournament, we knock $1,000 off to make it, so that they can make more money and put more money in their pocket. So we do that to a little limited degree right now. If minor ball hosts a provincial tournament, if the Elks host curling, even if it's not even a sporting thing, and the Elks hold a provincial convention here, we will award that. So sport tourism is huge and it's big, and the attempt was to be able to reward those people for doing it by having that grant available to them to help offset their costs and recognize the work that had to be put on to host it here. So
instead of a budget line, I wonder if this is something we can have relayed to Community Services Board that like a more of an initiative or push that way. And if they request supports for that, if that's something you could relay to the board.
Mr. Neal,
go ahead.
I guess I'm just looking for clarification around what all entities that includes. Like we've mentioned minor hockey, minor ball, the Elks curling. Does that include the golf course? Does it include any other organizations or facilities as well? I'm just wondering which ones those are.
Just any facility and any organization right now that's hosting a provincial tournament that's classified as a provincial tournament or higher.
Okay.
So golf course will host tournaments, but they're not a Alberta Golf Association provincial tournament. If they did, that would be something that we would step up to. But those informal golf tournaments, we know bring lots of money to our community.
Yes.
So, but we haven't recognized them. We've used provincial level as our base. I think if you were going to open it up to any tournament per se, they are sport tourism, they are bringing people here, but you'd open up a large can of worms, especially with golf, because There's all kinds of tournaments, and they do bring people here, and it is sport tourism. But where would you stop would be, I guess, my comment on that. So we've used provincial level as our guideline and move forward from there. Rhonda has a comment.
Because it's an.
Well, I guess based,
Is like if Elks hold their provincial curling tournament and they use the community center, they get up to a level of $1,000 in-kind contribution. Like when the fire department is trying to bring their curling tournament here, they will be given
An in-kind.
an in-kind contribution.
I think that's a great idea. You know, it encourages everybody to start, you know, bringing people into utilizing our facilities. How often are they sitting empty and idle? Soccer field, you know, how often, you know, we've got awesome assets and, you know, we're still investing the time and energy to keep them maintained and everything, but they're not utilized. So what's the point of having them?
That
So-
was our discussion at the golf course. It costs the same whether we have one person golfing or 100 people golfing to maintain the grounds. So
Yeah.
that was one of the challenges that we took on a couple of years ago. It worked rather well, actually. COVID really helped.
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, do you
Yes.
have, I think, what are your comments?
My comments are, it being the first go through the budget. It was actually a really refreshing, supportive document to go through. The first day, you know, kind of sitting there getting your numbers, head around the numbers was a little overwhelming. Took it home. Ironically, as I indicated before, I confirmed in my head where I thought it was about 300,000 or 350,000 that we could move and save, and coincidentally, without communicating with you, it was pretty much the same money. So I was kind of happy that maybe I wasn't as green as grass and did have a little bit of a grasp. I have no problem with the 2%. I struggle with it a little bit because I worked in the oil and gas industry. There's guys that have taken, you know, 15 and 20% hits. They are starting to get those back now. In fairness to that, some of them are making substantially more than some of our town staff were. Again, very different worlds. So, I mean, you can't compare, as you said, apples to apples. Yes, it's a job, but it's a very different job. These guys, some of them roll out of town at 6 o'clock in the morning, get back at 6 o'clock at night, and they're on call 24/7. So I'm very supportive of the 2%. I know that's not in our numbers, but I think that's something that's workable. In support of Councillor Campion, 2% tie it back to our honorariums and the $800 technical technology allowance with the $2,000 training flex pay or whatever we would like to, however we'd like to work. I think a flexible education allowance would be something that would probably work as terminology. That being said, I think we're close enough to progress. I do like the comment about putting money into Helmer Dam. Instead of a $120,000 hit, or if it's a $240,000 hit, we have money there to fall on. I mean, it's still going to be a hit the day it comes, but it's not.
It's still going to cost the same,
number.
but you've saved for it.
Yeah, you've thrown out a couple of air mattresses to soften the blow.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
as far as the what did I want to street upgrades and stuff, as we've talked to our engineering firm, this is probably not the year to do a bunch of paving from their feelings. But if there's something that has to be done, we will do it. I mean, that's just how.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, as I said, this budget proposes doing something major in 2023.
Yes.
Like anything else, if something came up that
Catastrophic.
was emergent, we would be back at the table.
Yeah.
Excuse me, back at the table with you discussing how we want to move forward and what options and in what way. So.
Okay, so that being said, I think we've got it narrowed down to where we can go ahead with it, correct?
Yeah, as long as As long as there's consensus around the table. So the consensus around the table would be that we would move forward with to bring the budget back to council next week.
Yeah.
Is all of the recommendations that were brought forward before, excluding the ones Councilor Olson, if people are in support of Councilor Olson's recommendations. So that would mean we would change the budget to reflect the 2% COLA. We would change the budget to bring the skate park back into 2022, the 25,000. We would add the 15,000 to the Fox Lake Park electrical. And we would adjust council's COLA by 2%. And we would include the $800, change the technology allowance to $800 a year, and implement the flexible training program for council. If those are the directions I'm hearing from people, that's how we'll move forward. If there's, now's the time.
That's where I'm just gonna go. Councilor Warwick, did you hear what we're running with or proposing? It's a head nod.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, the only thing I wanted to just say, I didn't talking about the increase to COLA or the council's increase. And I know that always becomes an issue, although it is up to the council to decipher what kind of wages and honorariums and per diems we take home. In my experience in the past, we have tied those increase to then it become less contentious, and we are always kind of meeting, sort of the middle of the grid. Whereas all of a sudden you're looking at, hey, we think, some members may or may not feel like we deserve a 3 to 5% increase, which, brings some just some imbalances in my opinion. So I think just maybe not at this time, but in the future, I would consider maybe tying it to the COLA grid so that you don't have those inequities for your accounts. And then it doesn't add a little bit of the contention away around the conversations that are happening around the table. Outside of that, yeah, I'm good with the rest. I think what the summary that Mr. Neal just gave, I'm in that.
Okay, one thing I want to ask, are you talking the COLA number that we are using? Or are you talking the COLA number from the provincial government?
I think the one we're using.
Perfect, okay.
The COLA number we're using. And to be honest with you, a few years back, I identity as a third ciphered the wages of the council of the day. And just what I've kind of said, tying that to the COLA just makes it for better conversation. And there seems to be less inequities when you decide what or when the council may or may not take that increase to fit within that grid.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Crowell?
Yeah, I agree with Kyle. Other than the budget council increase, I don't agree with, but that's fine.
That's the choice. That's the choice. Yeah, exactly.
But I just want to be careful, Councilor Crowell, so that you understand when we bring the budget forward next week, it will have the 2% in it. So you don't want to vote no to the budget if you've got an issue with a COLA. So I think that's where we've done it different ways, Mr. Mayor. We've looked for consensus. If there's consensus, then we bring these forward, or we could put a motion on the table, for example, for all of these. We could put a motion on the table that, for example, COLA be increased to 2% for staff and council, or you can even break it up to staff and council and have a vote on each one of those. you could have a vote on bringing the 25,000. Like, you could do it that way. I didn't want
I think
Council Kroll to be at the meeting.
Singled out. And, yeah.
Not singled out, but at the meeting, having an issue with the 2% COLA and voting no to the overall budget, because it will come as an overall budget, which will include all of this. So you certainly at that moment, you can
Voice.
express your concern that you don't think the 2% COLA is the right way to go. But at the end of the day, hopefully you're voting in favor of the budget so we can move forward. I don't know if I explained myself good, but
Councilor Murphy?
I'm very, very happy, Mr. Mayor, with the conversations we're having today. I do absolutely agree that I think the 2% is excellent because it'll allow the staff to be acknowledged that there has been an incredible change in the cost of living. And I mean, even 4% wouldn't come close to covering it. And allows us to make it a flat rate. I totally agree with the skate park. Anything to encourage people to come to Hanna. It's a beautiful, all our facilities are beautiful. So I'm good.
Councilor Campion?
Yeah, I agree with everything you had it set up there.
Perfect. Councilor Olson, you better not
I'm
have.
good. You're not gonna disagree with yourself?
I said to myself, so.
That's it.
Councilor Wood.
Well, I
Mr.
have a
Mayor?
question about-
Yes, Councilor Wood.
I actually just want to clarify that those will be separate motions that come to the table. I know Kim was saying they may or may not bring them as separate motions. Is that correct? Or is it going to be one complete
I
motion?
was hoping one motion is what I was hoping. What was your rationale, Councilor Warwick?
Well, I just think, sometimes we may not agree with one or two motions, but overall consensus of the board, if others do agree with all of the rest of them, it doesn't imply that we're not going to agree with the overall budget. But individual motions, I may not agree with.
So vote against.
And I have my political reasons for agreeing or not agreeing with ones. And I believe that in a motion, we get the opportunity to voice it through the process of a motion. Is that not correct?
Yeah, I don't disagree with Councilor Warwick. That's probably the cleanest, clearest way. It'll take a little more time and there'll be more motions on the table. But then, we know the position of each person moving forward, and if a motion is carried, it's carried, and that's what we put in the budget that brings forward next week.
So where do we draw, do we do a motion for every
line item?
line?
Well,
Like,
Council, I'm trying to, that was one
Well,
of
it
the
looks like
challenges.
right now,
I think. Go ahead.
it looks like right now there would be about 4, 5. Oh, sorry, Mr. Neal. It looks like right now there would be 3, 4, 5, probably 6, possibly seven motions, and then the overall motion, right, of the changes made to the budget.
Yeah, we were trying to, in the paperwork that we sent you with the recommended motion, we were trying to capture the major amount that we talked about and had brought forward, in that council approved the proposed adjustments and recommended options presented in this report. So that was trying to capture a lot of them. I think we could still have that brought forward. And then we could say, because the 2% COLA is not there, so it would be an add to it. The, where were my notes I wrote down? The skate park would be an add to it, the Fox Lake, like they're all adds to it. So they're not necessarily takeaways from it. So I think we could have those 5 or 6 motions brought forward and voted on as we move forward.
Okay.
Councilor Bowden, did you have
Oh.
anything?
Yes, I had a question. If we're going to go ahead with the Fox Lake upgrades, would we be looking at an increase in the usage?
Mm,
You mean the,
Hopefully the fee.
hopefully.
The fees.
Oh, the fee, you mean the
Yeah.
fees? I don't know, the board was just
No.
doing reviews on fees, and I think they were gonna try and hold the line on the fees. I think we're somewhere in the ballpark, I'm not a camper, but I think we're pretty close to, most of the
According to my
areas.
mother and father-in-law were right there.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think we're close.
Yeah.
I don't know, and again, if we're looking at increases there, you're generally, and I know every small little bit helps, but you're looking at $1 a night or whatever, and it'll bring some additional revenue, but I don't think, we generally will have the board review those and bring back recommendations. So I believe they're looking to hold the line on them.
And that's
So-
before they're aware that we're talking
Yeah.
about doing upgrades on it as well.
Yeah, but I don't know
But
if
the upgrades aren't enhancing anything, they're meeting a standard. that
Meeting a
isn't being
standard.
met right
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
so
it's
that
just a
their
question.
so that their power works
Yeah.
and works all the time instead of.
If it was
the
money
breaker
to
kicking.
increase and add sewer to every site,
Yeah.
then absolutely. But it's just we've fallen below a
Standard.
standard
Yeah.
now.
Okay, no, just a question.
The managed service board agreed that we are leaving them in the way that where they are. So it's at the meeting, so.
Okay, so consensus, we have 5 or 6 motions and then a general motion, or we roll it all into one.
Roll it into one.
I think I do think, Mr. Mayor, that it's probably easier doing them one-offs. It's a little bit more time, but
Okay.
then it's
It's more
not,
transparent.
it's more
Yeah.
transparent and it's not consensus. It's,
Okay,
everyone has voted on it. So
okay, so
I'll
we-
make them up on the fly here. Rhonda's probably writing them down,
she's working away at it now.
but,
If you do the first motion that you have.
Yeah.
it Basically says, following all of the things that we talked about at the
Yeah.
last meeting. But add the skate park and Fox Lake Park, and you are at a $1,418 deficit.
I thought we'd be higher than that.
Yeah.
The deficit was 38.
Yeah, but we added 51.
I'm just talking Fox Lake at 15 and the skate park at 25.
But
And
the
a COLA.
COLA,
If you want the COLA put in there as well, if you do that, then you're at 14,700.
yeah, which is, yeah,
That doesn't include the 2% for council, leaving that.
well, that would,
Separate.
that
Add
will
that
be
in as well.
included too, but, and again, that's probably,
A separate motion.
yeah, and it's probably, I'm thinking around $1,600.
Yeah.
So, increase, so. Okay, so what I would suggest, and this is a little, different, but I will put the motion, I'll read the motion out and then someone can move it, but that, council approve the proposed adjustments and recommended options presented in this report to amend the budget totals as follows. So 2022 will be a $56,000 surplus. And I know it'll change when we do the other things. The 2023 will be the 149,911 deficit, and 2024 would be the 659,346 deficit. So would someone make that motion?
I could do that.
Councilor Bolton, sorry.
It doesn't
I'm
matter.
Sandra.
I hear.
I'm just
it.
gonna go with Sandra B.
It's blue lines regardless, no worries.
All in favor?
Fred? Yeah, did Angie?
Yeah,
hear?
she had her hand
Okay.
up.
So the second motion that we would put on the table following the document would be that council approve the proposed adjustments to the operating budget to increase the technology allowance to $800 per year per council member and provide a training allowance of $2,000 per year per council member, which will reduce the 2022 surplus from 56,382 to 38,582.
Motion. Councilor Campion. All in favor? Councilor Warwick. Thank you. Carried.
Okay, and I won't do the third motion because that won't be, we won't have that surplus. So the next motion would be, gotta find my notes, that the COLA for Town of Hanna full-time staff be increased from 1% to 2% at an additional cost of approximately $11,000 for 2022.
Motion, Counselor
I'll give you that
Olson.
one.
All in favor? Counselor Campbell?
Yeah, I did.
Sorry, didn't see anybody. Carried.
Okay, the next motion would be that council's honorarium be increased by 2% for the 2022 budget.
Motion. Counselor Campion. All in favor?
Are you doing opposed as well?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, we are this, yeah, opposed. 2, carried.
Thank you.
okay, Rhonda, you're caught up?
Sure.
Okay. That council reallocate $25,000 for skate park upgrades from the 2023 budget to the 2022 budget.
Motion, Counselor Sandra B. All in favor? Opposed? Counselor Crowe.
Yeah, I'm with it.
And you're,
Yeah,
you see here,
yeah.
okay, that
Carried.
council reallocate an additional $15,000 to the Fox Lake Park Capital Electrical upgrade from 2023 to 2022.
Motion, Counselor Crowe. All in favor? Carried.
You need to call opposed.
Oh, sorry, Counselor Campion. Opposed? I missed him last time because he's right here, so I can't
Yeah.
spot him. Yeah, you have to swat at me every once in a while, buddy.
Fire vision. that's what
Yeah.
they call it.
And Rhonda, do you have the figure now that we are deficit?
I don't, because I don't have a council. 2%.
Okay,
Call
so,
a recess, give me a couple minutes.
Sure.
sure. Okay, and then we can make a final motion to basically draw whatever that amount is from
Reserves.
surplus to balance the 2022 budget.
Are you taking a bit of a,
We're
Recess.
taking a
Yeah.
recess,
I
yeah.
just gotta run out. to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
No,
see
I got
here.
people at
So if you
bed.
want to
I
do
haven't
something
seen
Your
back.
worship, are you wanting to stop the
Okay.
live stream during?
How many minutes?
Keep
How
it
many
going.
minutes?
5. You can stop it but we're just gonna have some